riding a bicycle.
And they get prosecuted for it.
So they have not been prosecuted, Alan. Don't lie on television where people can fact you. None of them have been prosecuted.
Yes, they have been. I know they have been.
Which soldier was prosecuted for dropping a grenade on a child?
There are dozens
You're lying
of them
on national TV. Piers Morgan can come back on the next episode and tell everyone that you're not telling the truth.
Dozens of them have been prosecuted.
Not a single Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child. That is a lie. A demonstrable lie. Everyone watching right now.
Hang on.
I'm sorry, you can't say things.
Hang on. Just to be clear, Alan, what Mehdi is saying.
While on Piers Morgan's show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, the lawyer for all evils goes up against Mehdi Hasan. These are the type of debates that Mehdi fully shines in, where he could just pull up facts and it's difficult for people like Alan Dershowitz to combat, but he tries anyways. So let's watch these clips and I'll give my thoughts on it afterwards.
That's their goal. They are targeting you, and you're accepting it because that's their goal. And I don't blame you. Good people support Hamas, or at least oppose Israel, because they don't understand
I don't support
that all these deaths are the result. No, I'm not saying that. I say good people do. Some people do. The people who march in New York or oppose Israel because they don't fully understand the tactic of Hamas to kill as many.
No, I understand that. Okay, I want to go to Mehdi. I want to go to Mehdi. Alan, I fully understand the tactic of Hamas. What I don't understand.
No, I understand.
What I don't understand are the current tactics of the Israeli government, which seem to be not a lot better. Mehdi, your response.
I mean, I don't know what to respond to. So much was said and so much nonsense there was said about violence and killings by someone, as I say, who's volunteered to defend Netanyahu at the International Criminal Court, where he's been indicted with the former Israeli defense minister for war crimes.
I'm proud of that.
And crimes against humanity. Of course you're proud of it because you don't value Palestinian life. Let's just deal with some things you said. Number one, you talked about deals and negotiations. Gershon Baskin, who is the only Israeli negotiator to have ever successfully negotiated with Hamas, keeps saying, he said it just the other day, go check his Twitter feed, that he has communications from Hamas saying, we have offered the Israeli government a full ceasefire. We will leave government. We will not govern Gaza. We will return all the hostages in return for a permanent ceasefire. Israel doesn't want a permanent ceasefire because Smotrich and others want 60 days and then they go back to the killing when the hostages are released. He's offered a permanent end to the war. Israel doesn't want a permanent end to the war. That's what Baskin is saying. Secondly, you talk about killing of kids.
I would like that.
You talk about killing of kids. I mean, the Israeli military does intentionally kill children.
Deliberate.
Let's read 972. Israeli publication interviewed 7 Israeli soldiers and officers, Piers, who returned from Gaza. Just last week, in several cases, the soldier said, Israeli troops deliberately targeted children. There was a boy who entered the zone. He didn't do anything. Other soldiers claimed to have seen him standing, talking to people. That's it. And they dropped a grenade from a drone. In another incident, soldiers tried to kill a child riding a bicycle.
And they get prosecuted for it.
So they have not been prosecuted, Alan. Don't lie on television where people can fact you. None of them have been prosecuted.
Yes, they have been. I know they have been.
Which soldier was prosecuted for dropping a grenade on a child?
There are dozens of them.
You're lying on national TV. Piers Morgan can come back on the next episode and tell everyone that you're not telling the truth.
Dozens of them have been prosecuted.
Not a single Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child. That is a lie. A demonstrable lie. Everyone watching right now. I'm sorry, you can't say things.
Hang on. Just to be clear, Alan, what Mehdi is saying is that no Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child since this war began. Is your information different to that?
Absolutely different. I know for a fact because I was involved in the negotiations with the International Criminal Court, and I arranged for Khan to come to Israel and see the evidence of what has been done, how people have been prosecuted, how the Israeli legal system has been responsive. So I have all the data and all the information.
Name them. Come back on this show and name those soldiers.
It's true that they've been prosecuted.
Come back on this show, Alan, and name those soldiers. I challenge you. Now, I'll finish my point. You interrupted me. Hold on. You interrupted me. I never interrupted you. You've interrupted me twice now on this show.
I didn't interrupt you.
You did, actually. You interrupted to make false claims.
I did ask Alan a question.
Well, let me finish my point. Actually, my second point, Piers, was to you. I dealt with the Gershon Baskin and the deliberate killing of kids. They just killed 6 kids queuing up for water.
I was about to talk about
yesterday.
that.
They killed 9 kids queuing up for nutritional supplements last week. Stop interrupting, Alan. Everyone can see you do it.
And it's under investigation.
Stop interrupting, Alan. Otherwise, I'll do it to you and you really won't like it. Piers, let me make my point to you that I'm trying to make.
I'm convinced that Dershowitz is only a high-priced, popular, quote-unquote, lawyer because he takes these type of beatings on a daily. And he volunteers for them. He volunteers to defend the worst people in the world, all around the world. And Piers will push back on that idea that just because he's a lawyer, volunteering to defend evil, that shouldn't be used against him in any debate. because people deserve lawyers. That's true. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. I support that. But when a lawyer is going out of his way to defend evil, he's either supporting it or he's just clout chasing. And you can say one is better than the other, but if you actually think you're a good lawyer, then you're trying to make the best deals for the worst people. And I don't know what that says about you.
You mentioned the New York Times. I'm glad you've mentioned the New York Times several times. The New York Times piece, the long piece, has a lot in there. Two important points for you, Piers. I've been coming on this show for over a year talking to you about Gaza. Last April and July, the New York Times reports that Netanyahu's own generals told him, there's no military strategy left. There's nothing more we can do. Stop this war. Netanyahu overrode them. So when I was on this show and you were telling me, of course, they're just defending themselves. What else should they be doing? At that time, when I was on this show, Piers, generals were telling Netanyahu there's no war left to be had. They also make it very clear in this piece that the government would have fallen apart had Netanyahu not prolonged the war because he wanted to avoid prosecution. Yeah. And I'm sorry that we needed the New York Times to say that, because I was saying that on this show to you, Piers. Many people were saying that this war is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. This is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. I know Alan is an expert on criminals. He's defended some of the worst criminals in the world.
Lawyers do defend criminals.
Well, he defends some of the worst people. Epstein, Netanyahu.
Yeah, but lawyers...
No one forced him to defend these
lawyers. Some of the best
Piers, no one forced him to go volunteer to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
I defended Nelson Mandela.
I can actually. I can say you don't need. You don't need to.
It's not very credible to do that.
Really?
Lawyers do their job.
Hold on, Piers. Somebody forced Alan Dershowitz to defend Netanyahu. He said he's proud to do it. No one forced him to do it.
Which criminal should he defend?
I'm proud to do it.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
He's a criminal lawyer.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein. You defend the worst people in the world.
I was proud. Yes. And I was proud to defend Bill Clinton, and I was proud to defend Ted Kennedy. I've defended people on I've also defended Palestinians who were charged with offenses in Israel. I've also defended Palestinian students at Harvard who wanted to put up a Palestinian flag.
Have you defended Netanyahu's corruption trial? I think you've only defended his war crimes.
But you know what, Mehdi? I do think it's a very lame.
No, I've been involved in his corruption trial too.
It's a very. I've always felt, and a lot of people try this with Alan Dershowitz,
because
there are lots of things you can argue with Alan about what he believes. But when people go ad hominem about him being a lawyer defending bad
Piers,
people...
Well, I'm going to respond now since
most criminal lawyers I've ever met at some stage defend pretty dodgy people.
Piers, look at
that. It's their job, literally their job.
We're looking at our cameras. Look at your camera and say honestly that you would say to Saddam Hussein's lawyer or Slobodan Milosevic's lawyer, Vladimir Putin's lawyer, you wouldn't say a word about people who choose in the West to go defend those people? Yes, you would. It's just you give Netanyahu a pass. I see him in the same league as Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin, Slobodan Milosevic. If a Westerner chooses to go defend these people, no one forced him to. I'm going to question their moral judgment.
Do they have a right to defend?
Of course they have a right to a defense.
Then they should have a right.
But no one forced.
Well, hang on. Then they should have a right to have a lawyer defending them.
Of course.
You understand that?
Understood.
That's how the legal system works.
So if a British
justice
hold
works.
on, Piers. If a British lawyer volunteered to go defend Putin, you wouldn't cast any moral aspersions on them. Don't lie, Piers. You know you would.
So just to be clear, who should Alan be defending? Give me some criminal names.
People in New York, people wherever he lives.
Which criminals?
Why does he have to go defend Netanyahu?
Give me some names.
Hold on. Why does he have to go defend Netanyahu?
I do have.
I think it's a crazy.
I look at vile people and I wonder, why would you volunteer to go defend that person?
Because they're lawyers. Anyway, let's move on to the more substantive part of this.
Because they're lawyers is not a good answer for why someone would want to defend all the evils in the world. Volunteering, like Alan Dershowitz says, a lot of times pro bono. So you're paying your own way and not getting paid to defend evil. Maybe he just believes in the rule of law so much that he thinks everyone should have a strong defense. That's fair. If that's the truth, then that's fair. But it's probably because he's just a world-class clout chaser and wants his name attached to these awful things, because then he'll get hired by other less popular evils with deeper pockets. But continuing in the theme of evils that he's defended.
I just want to play a clip. This is Tucker Carlson talking about the Epstein scandal. Let's take a look at this.
And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that.
Okay, Alan, it's got a lot of pickup. This from
I was
Carlson.
Epstein's.
Yeah,
I was Epstein's lawyer. I tried desperately to get him a good deal when he was first arrested. I went to the prosecution with everything we had. I asked Epstein over and over again, what can you tell me? Did you work for the government? Did you do anything for the government? If he had done anything for the government, first person he would have told would be me, and I would have gone to the government and say, well, you can't prosecute this guy. You have to let him off the hook. He's worked for the government. There isn't one iota of proof or truth to the claim that he worked for the Israeli government. Jeffrey Epstein visited me in Israel when I was there as a visiting scholar. It was the first time he had ever been to Israel. He asked me to put together a group of smart people to have lunch. I included Aaron Barak, Yitzhak Zamir, a few people. He didn't know anybody in Israel. He has never had any connections with Israeli intelligence. And Tucker Carlson just made it up completely out of whole cloth. There's nothing to it whatsoever.
What you said has been corroborated by Naftali Bennett, the former prime minister, who said today. Well, corroborated in the sense of this defence has been corroborated. He said that Epstein had nothing to do with the Mossad ever, and never in his knowledge ever did any work for the Israeli government. Now, this is still being investigated. We shall see. But no one's, as Alan rightly says, no one's established this yet as a fact. To the contrary. Alan, before I go to Mehdi for a final response to this, you've been quite vocal since the Trump administration shut down the Epstein case. You've been quite vocal that you know specific names of people that, in your estimation, should be prosecuted. So my question for you is, why don't you just put them out in the public domain?
I can't, because I'm under court order. The courts, two courts in federal courts in New York, have imposed gag orders on this. I don't know anybody who necessarily should be prosecuted. I know the names of people who were allegedly clients or allegedly had sex, and those names are being suppressed because
how many names are we talking about?
And got probably just a handful, maybe even fewer. But we know that there are some, and we know that some of the names that are being suppressed not only are names of people who are accused, but also information about the accusers, because some of the accusations are clearly false accusations. And so what I've said from day one is we want every single thing disclosed, nothing redacted, everything open, so that the public can judge the validity of the accusations, the name of the accusers, the names of the accused, and put it all forward so that the court of public opinion has all the information. There is no such thing as a client list. There is a redacted FBI form that has the names of several people, and they have been redacted, and they should be unredacted.
But that sounds very similar to a client list to me.
A list? No, a list doesn't exist. But there is a piece of paper that has a group of people that were named associated with this whole ordeal. Come on, guy. Buddy does a good job trying to clean it up.
No, it's an accusation. No, it's not a list. A list would be something that Epstein put together. This is a list of people who were accused by somebody and by others of having improper conduct, and those names have been suppressed. That's not a list. That's a list of accusations. They may all be false as far as we know.
Okay.
And if you're going to turn out the names of the people accused, you also ought to provide all the information about the accusers.
And in all your time, Adam, before I go to Mehdi for the final word on this, in all your time around Epstein and this case and all your knowledge, has there been anything to link President Trump, Donald Trump, to anything that, in your eyes, ought to be further investigated?
Absolutely not. They knew each other. They were part of the Palm Beach circle. They were at each other's homes. And then apparently Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. But there's never been an allegation that Trump did anything wrong. And I've never seen any evidence to suggest that, period. The same thing is true of Bill Clinton. There were all kinds of allegations that he was on the plane, that he was on the island. That has never been proved. It's easy to make these accusations. I wrote a book a few years ago called Guilt by Accusation, where today in America and around the world, if you're accused, you're deemed to be guilty. But many of the people who were accused were not guilty. In my own case, I was accused, and the woman then admitted that she may have falsely, in fact, misidentified me for somebody else, and my case ended as a result of that, and other cases might end the same way if all the information came out. That's why I always wanted all the information to come out so that innocent people will be exculpated and guilty people will be
listen, I
prosecuted.
agree, and I think what's fascinating, Mehdi, is that this has been shut down without all that information being put out, which I just think purely on the face of that, that is wrong. But what we're also seeing is a political fallout, which is gathering real momentum and is quite dangerous for Donald Trump, I think, which a lot of the MAGA base are genuinely enraged that they've been effectively taken to the water edge of the oasis, in, thinking they're going to get all the answers and the accountability, and now they're going to get nothing.
Yeah, well said. This is the first Trump scandal I know of where the opposition to Trump is being led by his base, not by liberals, not by the left. Democrats have been very late to this story. It's his own people who are pissed at him. And as you say, look, there's only two options here. One is Trump and his crew lied to these people, made fools of them, brought them to the water's edge, as you say, tried to get votes off of a child abuse scandal, cynically, and then said, oh, there's nothing there is no file, even though Pam Bondi said it's sitting on my desk in February. Or there's the other scary scenario that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, is implicated in a child sex abuse scandal, which, of course, Elon Musk, his top donor, has said. He says Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files. No less a figure than his top donor and former government ally has said that. So that's a pretty big scandal. Then you've got Alex Acosta, who was Trump's labor secretary. He's the guy who signed off on the sweetheart deal that Alan Dershowitz negotiated for Epstein in 2008. Acosta says, I was told to lay off Epstein because he's with the intelligence services. Those are the words of Alex Acosta, apparently.
He wasn't told by me.
So, interestingly, whether he worked for the CIA or whether he worked for Mossad, and of course he had ties to Israel. He was best friends with Ehud Barak. He lived in Israel. He invested in Israeli companies.
Later.
Like he had ties to Israel. I'm not saying he's in Mossad, but he definitely had ties to Israel.
Later.
And the administration should come out and clarify. The administration should clarify. Last point I'd make is this. We talked about Alan being a lawyer for Epstein, and he can choose who he wants to represent. But more than just being a lawyer, Alan was a friend of Epstein's and a friend of Ghislaine Maxwell, and went to the mansion and went on the plane. I'm not suggesting any wrongdoing, but I'm questioning Alan's judgment on this and many other issues.
Alan,
so the president of Harvard was a friend. Professors were friends. Bill Gates was a friend. Jeffrey Epstein attracted a great many people. He used to have these seminars. Nobody knew he was doing anything wrong. Nobody knew he was doing anything wrong. Once people found out he was accused of doing things wrong, they terminated their relationship with him, as I did. You can't blame somebody for being friendly with somebody.
You got him a great deal.
I represented him as a lawyer. He didn't think it was a good deal. He refused to pay me my fee because he thought I had gotten him a terrible deal because he ended up in prison and having to sign in as a sex offender. So he didn't think it was a great deal. I thought it was a pretty good deal. That's my job as a lawyer. I'll always try to get the best deal for my clients no matter what. Okay,
we've got to leave it there. And unfortunately, the screen is breaking up again, but it's a good moment to leave it.
He said, as soon as we found out, we all just cut him off completely. Stop being friends with him. Stop answering the phones. Everything. He was completely cut off. Well, until he hired me to be his lawyer. So let me get this straight. You guys all believed the accusations to be some type of true, that y'all cut him off, but you still chose to defend him legally and then get him a sweetheart deal? Come on, guy, buddy, come on, friend. Well, not friend. I don't want to be part of that friend group at all, because clearly he hangs with the evil of the universe. Anywhere evil resides, you're going to find Alan Dershowitz or on his way. But if you made it this far, you might as well like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace.